Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. Today I am back with you to have another exchange student and host family Q&A because over time there have been so many questions asked by you, my lovely subscribers, that I feel like I just couldn't fully answer in the comment section alone, and I also feel like a lot of you guys now watching will probably have similar questions. So I just thought, why shouldn't I just do another Q&A and really answer them in full right here, right now? So that's what we're going to do today. Without further ado, let's get right on into you guys' questions. So the first question I really wanted to answer in this week's video is, which places did you go to in the USA? So if you haven't followed my channel for a long time, you might not know that I was placed in Texas. So my host family lived about an hour north of Dallas. So that means that I was quite close to the border to Oklahoma. So I actually went to Oklahoma a bunch of times because my host mother's parents lived up there. So I got to see a little bit of Oklahoma, and I also went to the sorghum day up there and stuff like that. I also had a spring break trip to Florida, which meant that we drove through, I think, Alabama and Louisiana and then went to Florida. So that was really cool. There's actually still the original video of that trip on my YouTube. It's quite cringe because I filmed it like 8 years ago, but it's one of the first, or maybe even the very first video that is on my channel. So if you want to check out, you know, live footage from that, go down there. So that meant that I had a road trip through a couple of states, but I wouldn't really say that I went to those states because we just stopped to get food and then kind of moved on. So I would say I went to obviously Texas, Oklahoma, and I spent a week in Florida, so I think I can count that. I also spent some time in Virginia because the year before I did my exchange in the US, my German family actually hosted an American girl, so I, over the Christmas break, went and stayed with her family to see her again. So I kind of know a little bit about Virginia, but I've never been to any West Coast states or kind of the middle of the country. I've never really been to. I had a layover once in Michigan, so I was at the Michigan airport, but I never stopped in the north either. So those are definitely areas that I would love to explore more the next time that I actually get to go to the States. So the next question that I got that I think is really interesting to so many future exchange students is, should I bring a lot of clothing when I pack, or should I rather just wait and buy them once I get there? So this question is really interesting, and I've also made a video in the past about things that you should consider packing, so definitely check that out on my channel. I've also kind of put it on my to-do list to film a video when it gets closer to you guys actually leaving, so probably in July, where I will actually film a more in-depth video about packing. I think you should definitely bring some clothing because you don't want to be stressed about having to go on a huge clothing shop the first day that you get there, but kind of just, I would say, bring the basics. So bring basic jeans, for example, no rips, nothing, just simple jeans. Bring a few simple t-shirts, maybe a hoodie, just, you know, no big slogans, no rips, nothing, just plain clothing. I think that's probably the best way to go. And then once you get there, you can kind of see what kind of stuff the people are wearing. One thing I would say is you don't need to bother bringing anything low cut, anything that's showing shoulders like I'm doing right now. As I said, nothing with like rips or any like hardcore metal t-shirts or anything like that. You probably won't wear those, also because of dress codes in school, which I made another video about. But yeah, just stick with the basics and bring some, and then over time you can gradually buy more. The next question is, do you speak any other languages? So obviously my first language is German because I am from Germany, born and raised, and obviously I also speak English because that's what I'm speaking to right now. I learned French in school for about 6 years. I wouldn't say I speak it, I understand a lot of it still, but I'm kind of too shy to speak it because I don't think my level is where it should be. So I understand a lot of French, but I am very hesitant to speak it. I also took some Spanish classes at university, so I know a little tiny bit of Spanish, but I also wouldn't consider myself being able to speak it fluently or anything like that. So yeah, I kind of know those languages, but I don't necessarily speak them in the way that I speak right now with English. The next question is related to that, and it is, why do you think Germans learn English so quickly? So first of all, I wouldn't say that every one of us learns English quickly. I definitely see some variation in the levels of English that Germans speak, but I would say a lot of us learn it quite quickly because we usually start learning it in 3rd grade. So when we're about 8 years old, we start to have English classes several times a week, so that definitely helps. And there's a lot of Germans that actually do exchange years or even just shorter exchange programs, so I think that really helps. And also I think a lot of us are getting into like TV series that we watch in English, or make it a habit of reading or watching movies in English, and that definitely helps. Or with pop culture, for example, on YouTube, if you want to watch like interviews with celebrities, for example, you usually have to watch them in English because you don't always get subtitles. So all of these things probably really help. The next question is, how old were you when you went on your exchange? So I had just turned 15 when I went on my exchange year. I turned 15 in May, and then I think we left in August. So yeah, just turned 15. Started planning it when I was 13 though, so because there is quite a long planning period. I was really young when I started planning it, and I left just after I turned 16. I was crazy. I was really young. Looking back, I'm like, my parents were crazy to let me go at that young of an age, but I'm really glad that they did. Another question that I got is kind of a hypothetical one, but I can still give my opinion on it, and it is, will my host family hate me if I don't go to church with them? I want to say no, they won't hate you, and chances are they won't, but it definitely depends on your family. If they are highly religious, I always advise you to at least try it once, because I feel like it's kind of rude to just block something right away, even if you've never tried it. So I would just offer to go once and to try it out, and who knows, maybe you like going there. It doesn't mean that you necessarily have to believe everything that is being said. It might just be a really important experience for you, a place for you to make friends, something to do so you're not feeling lonely on a Sunday morning, for example, something where you might learn something new about the culture. So I would definitely advise you to try it out once, and if you don't like it, just have an open conversation with them, and I'm sure everything will be okay. So the next question I got was, when is the best time to become a host family? Should you do it when your children are younger or older? And because I think this is such an important question, I will actually make a whole entire video about what you should have to become a host family, like what kind of a family you should be to become a host family. So that video will definitely come soon, and I will talk about it in much more detail. Generally speaking, I would say though that there is not one type of family you have to be to become a host family. There's a lot of single people that are hosting exchange students. There are people that have really young children. There are people that have children that are already moved out of the house because of college or because they're even older. So host families come in all shapes and sizes and constellations, so don't worry too much about it. In the video, I'll definitely talk more about my kind of experience and the experience that I know other exchange students had that I was in contact with, and maybe give you some tips of things you should consider before hosting. But generally speaking, you don't have to have kids in the house. They don't have to be a certain age or anything like that. The next question is, did you see a picture of your host family before you met them? This is actually a really funny story because I got my host family, I think 2 days before I left. Yeah, it was quite last minute, quite stressful. For some reason, nobody wanted to take me on. Maybe it's because I was just 15, so I was one of the youngest people actually in the program, so nobody wanted to actually host me, so they stepped in last minute. And the first time I saw a picture of them was when I was actually already in DC. So when we had our layover in Washington DC is when I saw the first picture, but again, they looked different in real life, so I guess it was nice to see a picture and kind of know like how many people I would be expecting, what kind of a family I would be expecting. But a picture can only say so much. It's really important that you just meet them, or if you get the chance to have a FaceTime call, because that's going to tell you a lot more about them than a simple picture. Next question is, what do you think about the difference between German and American restaurants? So there are definitely upsides and downsides. What I like about German restaurants in comparison to Americans is that there are usually a lot more vegetarian and vegan options. I'm not vegetarian or vegan, but I like to have the option sometimes. What I also like is that they tend to be a bit healthier, or you at least have more healthy options, and the food sizes are usually kind of in a way that you are actually able to finish them. I feel like American restaurants have such big portions. However, I do like the idea of being able to take leftovers home and eat them at night or during the next day. What I do love about American restaurants though is the way they do drinks. So if you order a drink, the waiter's gonna give you refills for free, and you also get free water, which in Germany you even have to pay for water. So that's kind of annoying, especially if it's like hot and in the summer you have to pay so much for drinks. That's actually probably a huge part of your bill, is just paying for drinks, because sometimes, you know, you get those tiny waters and you really need like 2 or 3 realistically. So that's kind of annoying about German restaurants. So that's, you know, it has upsides and downsides, but yeah, I would say I probably prefer American restaurants overall. Last but by no means least is quite a funny question, I believe, and it is, who's more polite, Americans or Germans? So my first instinct would be to say Americans are more polite, just because, especially in the South, people are just so friendly and everybody is kind of nice to each other and quite courteous, and they use those sweet nicknames. However, I will say, although Germans do sometimes appear rude, I find that they don't slip up in certain situations that can get quite awkward. So I've had a lot of instances where people didn't mean to be rude, but they actually ended up being really rude because they asked really kind of stupid questions, or just like questions that were just kind of hurtful out of maybe missing knowledge about the world. And I think Germans wouldn't be as quick to ask like really personal questions or questions that are potentially a bit rude or a bit hurtful. So that's the only thing that I would say that sometimes Americans do. They can be quite straightforward with questions that I am not feeling comfortable answering. If you are a complete stranger and you're asking me about whether my grandparents were Nazis or something like that, it's just really rude and also just ill-informed in a lot of ways. So it's a toss. I think generally Americans are more polite, but sometimes it's good to have a little bit of a restrained thing when you meet people for the first time and not go right into the deep-hitting questions. So that's it, you guys. Thank you so much for asking me all of those interesting questions. As always, if you have any more questions, they can be as random as you want. You can just pop them down in the comments and I will definitely make sure to quickly answer them in the comment section and also take them on in my next Q&A. Thank you guys so much for watching. Thumbs up this video, and also leave me a comment, as I said, and just subscribe to this channel. I would love if you join this community. There is so much exchange student and host family content floating around here, so if you have any questions concerning these topics, definitely check out my other videos. I've been doing this for a year now, so there's definitely a lot of stuff, a lot of things that I've already answered, but I will be so glad to answer any more of your questions that you might have or take on you guys' video ideas. You always come up with the best suggestions, so thank you guys so much. And that is it for today. Thank you guys so much for watching. See you next time. Bye!